Hello everyone and welcome back to Eurofiber Garage, and this is episode 2 of Project Julia, the 2017 BMW 750Li. Behind me are an assortment of fluids and parts that we will be installing today in preparation for tuning the car. Behind me right here is a transmission filter, drain plug, obviously new bolts. We've got the ZF Lifeguard 8 that I plan on using versus the liquid moly equivalent. Did that in the 4 Series. It's okay. With this car, I feel like it'd be probably best to stick with OEM fluids just to keep everything as strong as possible for as long as possible. On top of that, we're going to have a lot of power being sent to the rear. So 75W90 differential fluid from liquid moly. I've had very good success with this on the 4 Series. I really like this stuff. I think it keeps your diff pretty quiet and it's a good fluid overall for the cost. We've also got a new drain plug here as well. We've now completed over 4,000 miles in the car, so going to do an oil change to do a full run-through analysis with Blackstone. Even though I did this before when I first got the car, the oil change was only about 300 miles, so I want to see how a full use cycle for me would look in terms of engine oil health, obviously health of the engine. So this will provide a really good snapshot of where the car is at health-wise, and again, preparing it for tuning. Is the car healthy enough for tuning? And lastly is some more Ceratec. Last time I only did 1 bottle, which only treats about 5 quarts. This car takes 10, so just going to top that off and give it the extra protection that it needs. However, I'm going to enjoy this very nice orange Pedialyte pop, get the car on jack stands, and I will meet you guys once that's done. See you there. So starting off, wanted to pull up ISTA on my laptop. A couple things I'm going to do in the car as well is put the suspension into locking suspension mode or jack mode, whatever you want to call it, as well as put the car into Diag mode. So very simple way to do that. We'll just press the start stop button 3 times. So 1, 2, 3. There you go. Now, I do have the car on a trickle charger as well. I'm going to have all the lights off as well as the AC so that I minimize as much power draw as possible. Lastly, we're going to come down here and hold the suspension button for about 7 seconds. And then once it does, it will flash. So we'll let go now. There you go. All right, so wanted to lay this out on a tray. Shout out to Steve MRE.
Let's get this out onto a tray. Nice.
On all the parts and tools we'll be needing today. So this is just for the diff. I'll do this section for each job we do. So we're gonna start with a new drain plug with a 14mm Allen. I forget the exact count. I believe it's 1.5 quarts. So I got 2 just in case. I've also got an extractor as well as a fluid pump. Basically, these guys have a extension already, but in order to extract the fluid, you want to make sure you have a proper way of doing that as well. So this is to, at least for the most part, you can get it in, but to extract the old fluid, you're going to want to have some sort of pump. Always good to have some hydration with you as well. This specific socket that I have is a half drive, so I do have a half drive ratchet, and then once we tighten it down, the torque says 60 Newton meters. I've seen issues on the forums where it's actually 45, but I think that might be on the manuals. Just be sure to double check. I have ISTA loaded up with the repair procedure. It says 60, so I'm gonna go with 60, so make sure your torque wrench can do 45 or 60. So with that being said, let's get behind Julia and get this started. Here is our drain plug. As I mentioned, it is a 14mm Allen. Other thing I forgot to mention as well, I do have a container to catch the oil that does come out. Couple smacks like that, break the torque. So I've just got a couple shop towels underneath me as well as the diff fluid. Okay, so that definitely is underfilled. There we go, starting to hear some fluid moving. So next to me I have the new plug as well as the new fluid. I also have my torque wrench set to 60 Newton meters. As I said, double check what yours is just in case it is the 45 Newton meters. Typically that is for the manuals. I think that's just about 8/10 of this bottle, I would say. Yep, pretty much comes right back out. So we are full. Gonna let that come down to a pretty small stream. I think this is okay. I'm gonna call it here. I've got the new plug and we're gonna hand tighten it first. But hold it nice and tight. There you go. All right, diff done. Let's move to the engine oil. For the oil change, you are going to need 10 quarts of your choice of oil. I love the Molygen line of protection packages. Also got a second Ceratec bottle because it only treats 5 quarts or 5 liters. I only did 1 last time, so wanted to throw that in as well. Oil filter with the new crush washer, as well as the O-rings for the filter itself. Tools you're gonna need: a couple ratchets. You will need a 8mm Allen for the drain plug, as well as BMW's special oil filter cap. I believe this is called a 20 point, whatever it is. I will link that down below. On top of that, some nice to haves will be obviously disposable gloves, a drain pan, which I have off to the side, as well as a pick tool and a flashlight. Pick tool will be for the O-rings, flashlight will be to take a closer look at the oil consistency and color. So don't be a dummy like me. I totally forgot that there's actually these covers for each filter underneath the engine bay, right below the, or sorry, right behind the center jacking point for the car. Do not do what I did and spend 5 minutes taking off all this stuff, unless you just want to look at how pretty your subframe is. In any case, your covers here are I took them off already, but this is where you'll have access to your drain plug as well as your filter. As I mentioned earlier, the N63 TU2 and I believe the TU3 do not have the second filter, as you can see, sorry, the second drain plug. As you can see here, it is just the filter itself. So I'm actually going to start with the filter so that I can just dump from there and catch that as well as the plug afterwards. Now oil is going to start coming down, so just be ready for that. There we go. All right. All right. Now we have the new filter and O-rings off to the side, as well as the drain plug with the old filter. Just kind of want to pull up the old filter. It will release. At this point, I will like to go through a couple of the little filter papers to see if I can see anything metallic. Just really looking for anything shiny. Of course, it's not gonna really pick up on camera, but you will see, those are just bubbles. I will have the part listed down below again, as per usual. New O-rings. Gonna start with the crush washer. I've got my pick tool right here. Just gonna slowly work the ring up. New O-ring. I've got some oil on my hands, so just going to get that a little lubricated. Start on the outside, and again, make sure you do it on that first divot. New filter. Alrighty, so the oil is pretty much dripping at this point, so I've got the new drain plug crush washer with the drain plug. Going to hand thread that back in. Now, I'm used to about 25 Newton meters. ISTA actually specifies that this will be 40 Newton meters, so I will grab my torque wrench just to know kind of the difference in that. But next I'm going to do the filter. ISTA specifies 30 Newton meters initial, loosen by 180, and then torque to 40 Newton meters. 30 Newton meters, back to 180. tighten. That is torque spec. Gonna give that a sec. Oil measures right at full. So at this point we've done the oil. We're going to actually reset the CBS, or the condition-based service. So what you're going to do is you're going to hold down the trip odometer reset until it pulls up the service. There you go. Reset possible. So like I had seen before, we're going to hold it again. It's going to ask you if you want to reset. Once more, hold it down. Reset in progress, let go. Reset successful. Now I'm going to go back. Good. Other than that, we are good. All right, here's the new filter with the new fill plug as well as new bolts. We've got a T40. This is the 8mm Allen as well as the 10mm Allen. We've got, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We got 7 quarts of ZF Lifeguard High Fluid 8. Sorry, Lifeguard 8. I'm actually going to transfer it into this container so that I don't have to puncture each one and have my pump do each quart. It's going to be kind of tough. It's kind of counterintuitive to do each one. So this should do the job. We'll just expedite the process a little bit. I'm letting the fill plug out. I actually had a tough time because there's a little bit of a splash shield right next to it with a rubber grommet. So, not super duper sure, but as soon as I moved the heat shield out of the way, I just had a tough time getting some sockets in. I would suggest a couple of wrenches as well as an extension. I was fortunate that this, I believe this is a 6-inch, I'm not super sure, was able to go behind the exhaust up on top. So it's actually the perfect length to fit snap-on wrench as well as an extension to get into. If you can find a low profile, I think you would basically get around that, but in any case, it came out just fine. I'm gonna switch to the T10 and then we will continue doing this with the rest of the transmission. I'll let that drain out because I don't want it on my wrench. We'd be here all day if I let it wait. Alright, so at this point, it's quite a slow drip. I'm going to start working on all the bolts. Should have access to all of them. Alright, filter is loose, I think, so I'm going to let it drain out. Now I know there's more going to be draining, so the front over here where I'm at, there is the plug. This is the filter neck. There is an O-ring that you have to lubricate as well, but I'm letting it kind of drain this way. New filter and pan. As I mentioned, you want to lubricate up the neck with transmission oil. Got my T40. And then it does have a particular way of torquing it. I'm just going to do hand tight for now, and Okay, so I am going to zip it in the probably just outside order. I'll go alternating to tighten this up. I am going to hold it up by hand so that it doesn't kind of compress the gasket weird. So I will just kind of go alternating from corner to corner while holding it up.
Okay, so they're all pretty much exactly where they need to be. Gonna look up the torque specs and the torque pattern here, and then I'll put that on screen now and get my torque wrench all set up. Alrighty, so I've got the torque pattern for the transmission bolts. They are torqued to 10 Newton meters. It turns out I don't have a 1/4 to 3/8 drive adapter. So my torque wrench, the lowest it can go is 13 Newton meters. The outside is 10 and this one is 8. I know what that feels like pretty well just by using that torque wrench in the past. I'm gonna do the old shredding technique, which is Guten tight, but I will confirm. Cool. So now right behind the camera, I've got the fill. We're going to do a cold fill up until it drains out. ISTA says to immediately start the car and continue to fill till it overfills again. We have to get this to between 40 and 50 degrees Celsius. I don't remember what that is in Fahrenheit. All right, so at this point it is filled. As you can see, quite a lot is coming out. So I'm gonna start the car, keep filling it up, and start running through the gears. Here we go. Forgot my remote over there. At this point, the transmission is full. What I'm going to do now is try to get the torque wrench in. It is 35 Newton meters, again with the 8mm hex. So I'm going to insert the socket here first, and then I'll do the extension to go behind the exhaust, which is going to be hot now. So you do be careful for sure. But at this point, we should be good. A little bit dribbled out, so I might have to come back and do this, but I think I'm pretty comfortable with that level of fill.
All right, you joined me back on day 2. Took the night to get cleaned off, try to get the smell of diff fluid off, although I don't think it ever leaves you. We are going to take the car for a quick test drive. Was able to double check all the fluids on the car. On top of that, we're going to have a bimmer link off to the side just to ensure we're seeing the sensor values of all the temperatures. Want to make sure that there's nothing that comes up error-wise. Make sure she's running smoothly. So with that being said, let's hop into the car. First impressions of the transmission. Really, the main concern that I had was that shifting from 1 to 2 was a little bit on the harsher side. That is a very extreme way of putting it. It really was not that bad. But I did notice the shifts from 1 to 2 when the car, especially was cold, were less compliant side of things. I felt like it was a little bit harsher than it needed to be, versus the higher shifts of 4 to 5 or 5 to 6, so on and so forth. That being said, the fluid that did come out, it wasn't that bad. If you've ever seen power steering fluid that's green, like Pentacin CHF11,
which is in most of the hydraulic steering cars, that will turn very brown over time, and it starts as a very bright green. The ZF transmission fluid was a very similar green, maybe more like a lime green, but in any case, I just thought that was an interesting comparison of seeing the old transmission fluid being, again, just kind of a darker green, not necessarily a bad color by any means. I was not expecting it to be, but I could certainly feel the transmission smoothness. 4, 5, 6, where you're going to be probably 80% of the time, feel exceptionally smooth. I'm going to put it in sport mode, just sport transmission mode now, just to see if there's any difference in the harshness of shifts as well as the speed of shifts. Aside from that, though, the other two things that we did with the engine oil as well as the differential, I'm not going to be able to feel that. I did hear a difference when I first got the car. Whatever oil they did use, it was a little bit on the louder side. It was probably just a 5W30 blend. I switched to 5W40 with Liqui Moly's Molygen, as well as added a Ceratec additive. As you saw, I added a second bottle this time as well, so we were able to double up our protection to make sure we were at the proper levels of Ceratec to oil. With that being said, that did quiet things down just a little bit. It did smoothen out the harshness of the vibrations that I mentioned as well inside the cabin. It being a V8 means it's always going to be inherently imbalanced versus the V12s or the inline sixes. That was something I noted in part 1 of just driving the car around. It's a lot different than the V12s that I've driven in the past. I just thought it would be a little bit smoother for a car of this caliber. That's just me being nitpicky. I think this car is really ready to get woken up by a tune. I know putting that much horsepower down is a little bit scary. I'm not so sure how I'm really going to do that, because the widest tires you can fit on these are about 295, but the only 295 all seasons are from Michelin Pilot Sport all season 4s. And I don't know if I want to be spending that much. A full set of those is about $1,500 with a smaller front, probably sticking with 245s, maybe going to 255, because I've seen a couple forum members that have done that same size, 255 and 295 in the rear. I don't need bigger fronts, and I don't want to spend more on bigger fronts, so if I can find that same size up front with a wider rear, I'm happy with that. The second alternative, or more accurately, the tire that I always run to is the one that we know and love, DWS from Continental 06 Pluses. They do have a 285/35, but they do not have 295. I think they have it in the 30 aspect ratio, but I really don't want to go that slim. I think 285 will probably get the job done. Even if I'm slipping at 275 now, I don't know if I'm going to be putting down 285 effectively, so we'll just have to wait and see. Honestly, it's a good cost-effective tire option. They'll run about $1,000 for the set, and that's with 245 on front and then 285 in the rears. I think that'll be okay for the time being. I really don't want to go any more expensive than that. I know I should with a car of this caliber, but I also don't want to be on a summer tire. Even though I'm in Texas where it literally only freezes once a decade, I don't know. It doesn't sit right with me to have a tire that would probably wear out quicker as a summer tire, to say the least, but also just not have the ability to drive in colder climates should the need arise. So we'll see. The short answer of that is we'll see what we end up going with. All that to say, let's get back to the garage and wrap this up.
Well, that is it for episode 2. Thank you guys so much for sticking with me till the end of this video. I know this one was a little bit of a hectic one. Doing transmission is never fun, nor is it easy. Being under the car, unless you're on a lift, you are in a tight, cramped, and dark space. Sounds a lot like me with your mom last night. So glad we have all the jobs done. I will be getting the results of the sample later on, and we'll probably just post them so you know what to expect if you do a oil sample on your own car. If you are interested, I will leave another link below for Blackstone Laboratories. The kits are free. This is not sponsored by any means. You do have to pay for the actual analysis of the sample regardless. So hopefully in this next part, we actually get around to tuning the car. New tires are on the list in order to have proper grip for the car. In order to put that power down, we're going to need to have a little bit of wider tires. So thank you guys again for staying till the end of this video. As always, I'm your host, Donovan. Thanks for watching Euro Fever Garage, and until the next one, bye.